Obinna walked briskly through the busy streets of the city, head down, trying to ignore the whispers that followed him everywhere. But it was impossible to avoid the stares when you had a tray of cats following you. Every step he took, the cats were right there, silent, mysterious, their glowing eyes fixed on him. The market was bustling with life, traders calling out to potential customers. But Obinna felt isolated. It had been months now since the cats started following him, and no matter what he did, he couldn't shake them off. They say he is cursed, a woman whispered to her friend as they passed. Maybe he's a witch, the other said, glancing nervously at the cats that trailed behind Obinna. Obinna ignored them, pushing forward towards his small tailor shop at the end of the street. Business had slowed down ever since the cats appeared. People were afraid to come near him, afraid of what they didn't understand. He opened the door to his shop, but before he could step inside, one of the cars darted past him, slipping into the shadows of the room. Obinna sighed, closing the door behind him. The cats were becoming more aggressive, almost as if they were waiting for something. As he sat down at his sewing machine, trying to focus on his work, he couldn't shake the feeling that the cats knew something he didn't. As for the first time, he wondered if they were here to protect him or warn him. The next day, the city buzzed with more rumors about Obinna. It seemed like everywhere he went, people were whispering, their eyes filled with suspicion and fear. As he walked down the main road to buy some fabrics, Obinna could feel their stares burning into him. The cats were with him as always, moving silently at his feet. "Mama, why do those cats follow that man?" a small child asked, tugging at his mother's wrapper. "Shh! Don't look at him. They say he's been bewitched," the mother whispered harshly, pulling the child away. Obinna tried to pretend he didn't hear, but it stung. He had always been a simple man, quiet and hardworking. His tailor shop was his pride, but now even his closest customers were staying away. In the marketplace, he could feel eyes on him from every corner. The women who sold tomatoes and yams, the men hawking palm wines and meats, all of them stopped to watch him pass. One of the vendors, an older man, crossed his arms and shook his head as Obinna walked by. "You should keep your distance from that man. The cat followed him for a reason," the man said to another trader. Obinna clenched his fists, anger rising in him. He didn't ask for this, didn't want the cats, but no matter what he did, they wouldn't leave him alone. He tried scooing them away, ignoring them, even setting out traps, but nothing worked. They followed him like shadows, always watching. He picked up the fabrics he needed and turned to leave the market. But as he walked away, he overheard one of the vendors muttering under his breath, "It's only a matter of time before something bad happens. Mark my words." The weight of their words followed him home, heavier than any fabrics he carried. What did they mean? Why were the cats still following him? Back at his shop, he slumped into his chair, rubbing his temples in frustration. Maybe it was time to find out the truth. The village elder, Mama Oji, might know something. She was known for her wisdom and knowledge of ancient traditions. Perhaps she would have answers. But even as the thought crossed his mind, One of the cats jumped up onto the counter, staring at him with those glowing, unblinking eyes. Obinna shivered. Whatever was happening to him, it wasn't going to be easy to escape. That evening, as the sun set behind the tall buildings, casting long shadows across the streets, Obinna made his way to Mama Oji's house. The cat followed him silently, their footsteps barely making a sound on the dusty road. The city's lights began to flicker on, but Obinna felt a growing darkness within him. Mama Oji's house was on the outskirts of the city, where the buildings thinned out and the noise of the city faded into the ground. The air was cooler here and the night felt heavier, almost like it was waiting for something to happen. When he arrived, Mama Oji was already sitting outside on her old wooden chair, as if she had been expecting him, her eyes sharp and knowing, watched as Obinna approached. The cats lingered behind him, keeping their distance from the elder woman. "You have come to ask about the cats," Mama Oji said, her voice low and serious. Obinna nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. "Yes, they won't leave me. People in the city think I'm cursed. I need to know what is happening." Mama Oji sighed, leaning forward slightly. "Your family, they are not ordinary, Obinna. There are things about your bloodline that even you do not know." Obinna frowned. "What do you mean? My family is just like anyone else." The elder shook her head seriously. "No, your ancestors were part of something powerful. There is a talisman, an object that has been passed down in your family for generations. It has been hidden for many years, but the time has come for you to reveal itself again." Obinna's heart raced. He had never heard of any talisman. His parents had never mentioned such a thing. A talisman? What does that have to do with the cat now? Mama Oji's eyes flickered to the cat, who sat watching from a distance. The cats are connected to the talisman. They are drawn to it, protecting it, and you, Obinna, are the next in line to carry its power. Obinna took a step back, his mind spinning. This doesn't make sense now. I've never seen this talisman. I don't want any of this. "The talisman will find you," Mama Oji said quietly. "It always does." Obinna's hands shook. He didn't know what to believe. All he knew was that something strange was happening, and it was only getting worse. Before he could ask another question, Mama Oji stood up, her face dark with concern. "Be careful, Obinna. The talisman holds great power, but it also attracts danger. You must be prepared for what comes next." Obinna's mouth went dry as he turned to leave. The cats were already on the move, trailing him like shadows as he walked back into the city, back to a life that was no longer as simple as it once seemed. Obinna's search for answers has only begun, but the talisman and the cats seemed to hold the key to his future. Obinna barely slept that night. The old tailor's mind was filled with Mama Oji's words, echoing in his ears. "The talisman will find you." But what talisman? He had never seen or heard of such a thing in his family. As the first light of dawn broke through the window, he decided he couldn't sit still any longer. He needed to talk to his mother. Maybe she would know something about his strange family secrets. Obinna hurried to his parents' house. The cat followed close behind. His mother, Ezine, was surprised to see him so early in the morning. She wiped her hands on her apron and offered him a seat in the small living room. But Obinna wasn't in the mood for a small talk. "Mama," he began, his voice urgent. "I need to ask you something important." Ezinne frowned, concern spreading across her face. "What is it, my son? Why do you look so troubled?" Obinna hesitated, unsure of how to explain the bizarre situation he found himself in. "Mama, do you know anything about a talisman in our family? Something that has been passed down from our ancestors." The color drained from Ezinne's face. She sat down slowly, her eyes wide with shock. For a moment, she didn't speak, as though the weight of Obinna's question had stolen her breath. "Mama," Obinna pressed, "please tell me, what is this talisman? Why are these cars following me everywhere? Mama Oji said it has something to do with our family." Ezinne sighed deeply, her hands trembling slightly. "I had hoped you would never have to know about this," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But it seems the time has come." Obinna leaned forward, his heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Ezinne looked at him with eyes full of regret. "The talisman is real, Obinna. It has been in our family for many generations. Your father was the last to hold it, but after he passed, I hid it away. I wanted to protect you from its power, from the danger that comes with it." Obinna's mind raced. "Danger? What kind of danger?" His mother shook her head. "The talisman is powerful, Obinna, but it comes with a price. It is meant to protect your family, but it also attracts unwanted attention, dark forces." The next morning, Obinna woke up with a heavy heart. The decision has been made. He would travel to the village to retrieve the talisman. As much as he wished he couldn't avoid it, but there was no turning back now. His mother's warning echoed in his mind, and the eerie presence of the cats only strengthened his resolve. They had followed him for too long, and the only way to end it was to face the mystery head on. As he packed a small bag with clothes and food for the journey, Obinna couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. The dream from the night before still lingered in his thoughts. Who had that voice belonged to? And why had the shadow in his dream seemed so real? The cats, as usual, were there, silent as ever, watching his every move. They would follow him. He was unsure of it, but what worried him most was that one might be waiting for him once he found the talisman. Before leaving the city, Obinna stopped by his mother's house one last time. Ezinne stood at the door, looking more worried than ever. She didn't say much, but her eyes told him everything she was feeling. Fear, concern, and perhaps a hint of regret. "Be careful, my son," she said softly as she handed him a small wrapped bundle. "This was your father's. He would have wanted you to have it."